They need more
It's
people.
okay.
I'm good, I'm good, thank you for worrying about it.
I can go over and
I'm here for the bride as opposed to the groom.
Oh, exactly, exactly. See, Fred's sitting on my side now.
Come on.
Yes,
Permanently six. It's a Wednesday.
He said, I saw him just this afternoon, he said he was going to.
Yeah, okay. We are having technical difficulties with broadcast.
Dan.
Are we ready?
And
We are, okay. Did he let you know when he'd be coming?
Well, he knows it's 6:30.
Okay, all right, well. Folks, let's get started then.
awesome.
All right. Welcome to the 6th annual Meet the Candidates Night. It's a pleasure to have you out on this evening when we have so many uncontested candidates running. So this is just an opportunity for you to ask questions about the issues that are most pressing to you. Before we get started, I'd like to just introduce myself. Kathy Kelsey has handed the baton to me. I'm Mary Beth Bentwood. I'll be your moderator tonight, and I'm joined by Val Scarborough, who is our timekeeper. As I said, tonight's a little different than other nights. Everyone's running uncontested. So that adds a different dimension to tonight's discussion. It's a chance to hear directly from these individuals about the issues that they're most passionate about. Housing affordability, development proposals, aging infrastructure, balancing town services and school funding with property taxes, issues that affect all of us on a daily basis. So tonight is really an opportunity to understand how they're approaching these issues, and what they would like to hear from you in terms of your questions for them. We will be hearing from Select Board, Mary Ann Barnsley and Zach Tyrell. Also from our Planning Board, we have John Christ, Molly McCann, who will be coming at 7, Neil MacGyver, Bill Bolton. Thank you all for joining us. And Library Trustees, Joyce Weston and Jim Corin, who will be coming. Thank you, Kathy, for starting this in 2020 with Val and Mike. It's an incredible civic opportunity for the town. Thank you, Pemmy Baker TV, for broadcasting this. Thank you, Peace Library, for hosting this. Thank you, Citizens Record and Laconia Sun, for promoting this. And thank you to our incredible citizens and town residents for serving our town. This is how tonight works. Each candidate has 3 minutes to introduce themselves. You can share with us why you're running or re-running for re-election, what issues concern you the most, which inspire you the most, and how you are planning on approaching them. You'll have 3 minutes to introduce yourself. And then Val has cards here. We have the green card. Welcome. Thank you. We have the green card for starting. Then you have a yellow card at 30 seconds. You get 3 minutes in total. And at the end, you'll have a red card. You'll get those for questions from the audience, and you'll get those for your introductory remarks. After the introductions, we will ask questions to the Select Board, to the Planning Board, and we won't ask the School Board because they're not here. I will ask a couple of questions, and then we'll open up to the audience for them to ask you other questions. Does anyone have any questions before we start? All right, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Okay, let's start with the Select Board. Zach, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, we can start with me. So I'm Zach Terrell. I'm the current chair of the Select Board, and I'm running for re-election. I've lived in town for many years. I live here on Highland Street with my brilliant wife and 2 teenage children. And I've really enjoyed serving on the board for the past 6 years. This would be my 3rd term that I'm running for. I think for a lot of reasons, it's kind of good that we've got a couple uncontested board member re-elections this year, because I think continuity matters in this moment probably more than in past years. We've got a lot of really big projects going on. I'm sure we'll get some questions this evening about the land purchase on the warrant for public safety buildings, some of the capital improvement costs, some of these sorts of things. And so I think it's really important that we that we have that continuity. So I think it's actually really nice that that's happening this time. I think for me, serving on the select board is a lot about responsibility, not necessarily about a title or anything like that in town, but a responsibility to serve the community, to help plan for the future of what we're doing within our means, and to be able to give back. One of the big things we've worked on over the years that I've been on the board has been transparency. I think there's a lot of that work still to be done, but things like streaming on YouTube, which hopefully we've got a lot of attendees tonight doing, offering all of our meetings for participation on Zoom, encouraging a lot of public conversation in the meetings, and our town manager's weekly email newsletter that he sends out are some things that we've really done consistently over the years. I think something that inspires me about operating on a board like this is the directness of local government. People in these roles don't, we're not wearing, Democrat or Republican on our sleeve. We're very much trying to serve the community and try to make the place we live the best that we can make it. And so I think the discussions go deeper and are less contentious maybe than state or national politics. So I really I enjoy that. I'm inspired by the debates. I love when folks come in, disagree with us about things that we're trying to do, and we can change direction. So those are some of the things that encourage me about the role. There's a lot of challenges coming for us, but that's why I want to serve again for 3 years.
Thank you, Zach.
Thanks, Zach. First, I want to say I've had the pleasure of working with Zach for 6 years now. And because we are uncontested, he does have my vote. Show you to that. But anyway, thank you, everybody, for being here, especially the folks at home. For those who don't know me, my name is Marion Barnsley, and I'm running for Select Board. Like Zach, this will be my third term if voted in, yet seems a little bit longer. I'm running for Select Board because I deeply care about the future of our community, and I believe we're at an important moment right now. We face real challenges managing growth responsibly, maintaining the services that residents rely on, and doing it all while respecting taxpayers and living within our means. Those aren't easy balances, but they're exactly what local leadership is meant to be. My background has been rooted in the community involvement, fiscal responsibility, and problem solving. I believe in listening first, working collaboratively, and making decisions based on facts, transparency, and what's best for the town as a whole. One of the questions Mary Beth forced us to ask is what inspires us and challenges us to do this work. Honestly, I can't pinpoint the moment that first inspired me to get involved in the town. My family and I moved to Plymouth a little over 14 years ago, and I can tell you before that, when we lived in Mass, I had never been involved in any committee, any board. I mean, I was a Girl Scout, but I don't think that actually counts. But there's something special about Plymouth, and it captured me right away. Over time, I realized it's folks like you that make this community special and strong. Our daughter thrived in the Plymouth, New Hampshire school system. She participated in the high school nursing program, which was amazing, and she's now actually in her third year pursuing her nursing degree. We also became involved in town activities, volunteered with local boards and nonprofits. My wife worked at PSU for many years, and that gave us an appreciation for the relationship between the town and the university and how much we benefit from working together. Owning an amazing business on Main Street has given me another perspective and an even greater opportunity with residents one-on-one. It gives me first-hand insight into both the opportunities and challenges that face us all. I also value being a conduit for sharing information in that environment about town issues and encouraging people to stay engaged. I'll try. If elected, priorities straightforward, protecting taxpayers and maintaining essential services. People really need to feel confident that tax dollars are spent wisely and carefully. Thoughtful economic development. We need to grow our tax base. That's the only way we're going to be able to lower our rates. Thirdly, lastly, I promise. As Zach said, it's essential we remain transparent. Residents deserve to understand how decisions are made and their voices matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Thank you, Zach. I have 3 questions that I'd like you both to answer. And then it's open to this wonderful audience. So the first question is, you have identified priorities that seem more cultural than policy oriented. One of those is enhancing community engagement and transparency. Can you share with us the specific steps you've taken to create access and how you're measuring that?
You wanna go first, or will we?
Sure. No, I mean, I'll steal it.
yeah.
So, I mean, some things that Zach already spoke about, newsletters, recording, everything's available on YouTube. It's great because you can pause and fast forward when you're not. And so there's a lot of that out there. We try and limit as much as we can non-public meetings. That's really important. No backdoor things whatsoever. Promise. Everything's out for everybody to hear in those meetings. We've always encouraged folks to join. As I said earlier, my job on Main Street, I get to sit down with people at the bar and have real conversations about their real challenges. And I'm lucky enough to share that with the board.
Ice cream bar.
Sorry, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, everything Marian said, absolutely as well. I'll just pull out one thing that 6 years ago I think was a problem on the board that our board has solved, and that was this tendency to go into non-public to debate a lot of topics and a lot of consideration. One, we limit that. We're very, very careful about what we go into non-public for now. But more importantly, we've unsealed every sealed non-public minutes that have occurred as far back as we have any record for. So as a board, we have moved towards that level of transparency. We were, in non-public, we reviewed all of those historical notes and determined that there was nothing that needed to remain non-public any longer. And so we took a really active role in that level of transparency. The other thing is we've really encouraged our town manager to participate in the community, to take a lot of meetings, to go to community gatherings, to be in our community. When we, coincidentally, when we stepped onto the board, the town of Plymouth transitioned from a town administrator style of government to a town manager style of government. And that seems on the surface, and if you don't follow all the details of how this stuff works, it feels like a very small change. But effectively, a town administrator is almost like the administrative assistant for the select board that enacts the things that they want to do and acts very at the direction of the board. A town manager acts more like the CEO of the town. They have a lot more autonomy. They're granted a lot more privilege to do things. So having a very effective town manager that's able to go into the community and talk about what we're doing and operate very independently, I think has been a boon to that transparency and to the community understanding that there is an open door, there's somebody that they can talk to, that can bring stuff to the select board, but that also is empowered to make change.
Thank you, Zach. How do you measure that? How do you measure if that transparency is being effective and if your communications are actually engaging the town?
Yeah, I'll start. And I didn't mention this in the previous statement, but one of the things that we also have been doing the last few years during our budget hearings is we prepare a slide deck that tries to simplify and project that during the meetings. We've heard really good feedback from the community that those kinds of things make it easier for them to follow what we're discussing, and we're going to do some more experiments with that in the coming year. But a lot of a lot of the way that we measure that, well, I mean, measuring the unsealed minutes, that's a really easy one, right? It's 0. We want that number to be 0 as often as possible, so that's an easy one to measure. Engagement's harder, though. You know, we have a great group of people here tonight. We would love to have more. The uncontested elections maybe contributes to that. But, you know, it's hard to know when you don't have direct engagement in the meetings if that's confidence in the job that's being done or apathy in participation. One thing we do know is that when we talk to people anecdotally, they're watching the YouTube replays. They're going and they're seeking that material out. And generally the people we talk to seem reasonably informed about the things that are happening. So I feel it's not maybe a solid measurement, but I feel like what we've seen is good views on those YouTube videos, and that is an indicator that the populace is engaged in seeing what we're doing.
And public feedback.
And public feedback, yeah, of
Thank
course.
you. One more question about the priorities. You listed cultivating collaborative strategic partnerships. So in light that PSU is facing declining enrollment and budgetary pressures, and they will be contributing less and less to the revenue of the town, what strategies are you pursuing to diversify Plymouth's economic base beyond PSU and the like institutions?
Sure. So, you know, as many members of or all members of the select board, we also sit on or attend various other meetings throughout the town. One of the meetings, actually, I'm the chair, is the Economic Development Board. I don't have to repeat. We all know nonprofits are a huge percentage, and I'm not picking on PSU, but they're the largest. And I think we're all rightfully concerned about where they are, right? Where the education is in this state. So being on the Economic Development Board, I think we've probably all known we need a greater tax base. We need more housing. We need better paying jobs. Right? Not everybody can work at an ice cream parlor, right? You don't get paid a whole lot to live in town. So how do we bring those things in? We actually, John, Bill, we met last week, the economic development team. We talked about Tenny Mountain. We talked about how tourism is huge for New Hampshire, right? That's our number one. And Plymouth is an amazing place. We all know that as well. We have a lot to offer. A lot of tourism to offer, and people just don't know about it. Once again, Tenny Mountain is huge, and so how do we engage economic development, the town, the select board, planning board, engage with those folks and help that area grow? How do we develop other areas? There's certainly land, and we're just starting to get, it's a complicated, involved process. But certainly from my perspective, from economic development, I would really like to see us grow more in that area.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything to that, Zach?
I'll add a couple quick things.
Sure.
In terms of partnerships. You know, you touched on nonprofits. We have recently secured a pilot agreement with Midstate, which we did not have in place. We would obviously like it to grow and get bigger over time, but getting that initial pilot agreement in place is a big deal.
Could you explain what a pilot agreement is?
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
So one of the big concerns with nonprofits in New Hampshire is that they are exempt from paying property tax, and that's where the majority of the revenue for a town comes from, is property tax. So you can't force a nonprofit to pay the town any amount of money, but you can negotiate an agreement with them, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, which is pilot. So you can get a pilot program agreed upon with a nonprofit where they agree that, yes, we do get some benefits from the town, and yes, it's in our best interest to make sure some of the revenue that we have as a nonprofit goes back to the town. And so we have pilot agreements with some other nonprofits, but it's been a focus of ours to try to open those conversations and have some of those. So we're trying to improve our relationship with Midstate. We're also in active conversations with the Penny Bridge House, so that's another one that we're talking to. And speaking of Plymouth State, you know, we have a big item, a big change this year with the police force. Plymouth State employed a good number of police officers for a declining number of calls that they were dealing with and that we as a town were responding to. So we were able to work with them to allow them to save money by having fewer officers and less overhead, while also bringing revenue to the town by augmenting our department, bringing on 2 additional officers that they will pay 100% of the cost for. And that will allow us as a police force to offer better services to the community with those extra police officers while having it entirely paid for by the university. So that's a partnership I think that really pays off.
Thank you. Before we move on to one more question, does anyone have any other questions about pilots and the nonprofit, the number of nonprofits that we have in town? I know this is a hot button for many residents. So if there's a question from the audience that you'd like to bring to the select board on that front, Kathy? Yes?
Well, I asked Zach this question before we started, but I think it's worth other people hearing, which is that enforceable pilot, or is it a voluntary thing for nonprofits?
Yeah, good question, and I was prepared for this since we had a little sidebar before this started, but, so thanks Kathy, love a softball. We do have a warrant article on the warrant this year that was petitioned by the citizens to request that nonprofits pay up to 2% of their valuation as a pilot. And I would love if that would happen. That would be great. It does give us some negotiating space with the nonprofits to say this is what the citizens are hoping that you will contribute. This is how they would like to see you give back. But it's not enforceable in that we can knock on I don't know, Mid-State's door and say, hey, we need this much money from you now, or hey, Plymouth State, we need this much money. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, we can't force that as a board, as a town. That really happens at the legislative level. So if the town passes that, and I assume they will, because that does seem to be the sentiment of desire from the towns for nonprofits to pay more, it gives us a negotiating lever, but it's definitely not something that's going to be directly enforceable.
Thank you. Last question about the municipal budget and tax control. So we've seen municipal tax rates nearly double between 2024 and 2025. We've seen property taxes continue to increase. Homeowners and business owners are facing a significant tax burden. What specific strategies are you supporting to control spending while maintaining essential services?
That's a shocking question
I
to
know,
ask.
I know.
I'm taken totally off guard by that.
Surprise.
Yes, exactly. No one wants to hear it. So, just a couple things that I'm sure most people know. Right, our tax base made up of, I don't know how to say this without. So, a good 65% of it comes from the school. The town, 35 to 40%. Is the tax rate, and then others is county and state. So when we set the tax rate, it's all of those combined. The reason most, but not everybody, saw an increase, so the state law requires every 5 years, at the most, all property houses get reevaluated. Now we all know or saw that once COVID hit, after some certain point, demand skyrocketed, which meant all our values skyrocketed. Obviously, we had nothing to do with that. We, members of the town. So, as Zach said, property taxes, that's the biggest revenue in the state. Okay, so in 2023, which was 5 years later, that's the last time, we did a reevaluation. That's when it showed up that that's when it hit. Everybody's value went up. And then, one of the things we're implementing, we only used to do it every 5 years. We've now switched to every 2 years. So if in fact there is a change up or down, you'll feel the impact less, good or bad. So really, since from 2021 to 2025, your tax rate has gone down. Don't ask me to remember the numbers, but I think it was 2022 or so. It was around $30, and then last year it was a little more than $25. So I know that's probably very surprising, but honestly, it was your value of our property and our homes that drove that number. Of course, the budget, costs are rising everywhere for everybody. Benefits, pay, infrastructure, all of those things. But the biggest problem that hit us, or problem or event, was the reevaluation. That's how New Hampshire, we have no state tax, we have no income tax. Property taxes are what drives it. Sorry, just saw the red. I could go on.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Questions?
Can I add something to that as
Please,
well?
yes.
So the other thing that happened in this same time period is that, and we all know this from our own grocery bills and our own costs in our lives, is that costs also skyrocketed. In 2020, we, as a town, approved the purchase of a new ambulance for $250,000. This year on the warrant, we have a replacement for that same ambulance for $500,000. In 6 years, the cost of an ambulance doubled, right? And it's not a situation where we as a community can say, well, let's not replace the ambulance. That's an essential service. And the same thing has happened across the board. A fire truck used to be $300,000 6 years ago. Now it's $1 million, right? So when you start to talk about these large capital items, we've established a capital improvement plan. We're spacing these costs out, trying to control the growth of the tax rate as best we can, but we have some of these costs that have gone up in ways that are unfathomable from where we might have sat just 6 years ago. One of the things that we're doing to try to combat that has been some regionalization efforts. So just as recent as 3 or 4 years ago, we used to, as a town, only get back about 60% of the cost when we sent an ambulance out of Plymouth to a surrounding town. We changed the way our budgets worked. We changed the way our billing worked to those towns. We now recoup 100% of the cost anytime an ambulance leaves the town of Plymouth. So that's really helpful. And so as we play out that model with surrounding towns' ambulance, expand our ambulance service, have the capacity to go on more of those out-of-town costs, that revenue comes in, helps to cover the cost of the equipment, helps to cover some of those increasing, costs in general. And so we want to expand that. I already mentioned the thing we're doing with PSU. That's an expansion of regionalization, even if it's still sort of within our own little region here. But we're having conversations with, should we do that for fire services? Should we be doing that for police services? And can that help to defray some of the costs by bringing in revenue in some more creative ways?
Are you seeing a greater need for those services?
We are. So while Plymouth State in the past, I think it was 4 years, their calls are down. Our police department responding to on-campus calls is down about 50%. The overall police calls in our town is up about 20%. So the overall calls are going up while our need to go on campus is going down. And part of that is just, we're a hub. There's a lot of activity happening here. Tenny Mountain Highway creates, a lot of traffic, accidents, speeding, the local businesses, responses to those as well. So there is a greater need for services. It's similar in the fire service. The needs are up. The needs for ambulance are up. We know we have an aging community as well, which, and as we have an older community, the need for ambulance services increases, right? All of these sorts of things. So yeah, fire's up, police is up, ambulance is up. Across the board, those needs have fallen.
Thank you. Any questions before I move on to planning board? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Let's introduce our planning board. We've got Molly McCann, who just joined us. I have asked candidates to take 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Let us know, since you just joined us, we'll let you go last. Get to catch your breath.
Thank you.
Yeah. But we'd love to know why you're running for election or re-election. What inspires you about this service? What challenges you're looking forward to tackling and how you'll approach them? Jim, let's start with you.
John.
John Christ, let's start with you, sorry. John Christ, let's start with you.
So John Christ, I'm currently serving on the planning board, and I've been on the planning board since about 2020, I guess. And for those of you who don't know this, this is the first time the planning board in Plymouth is being elected. So this is a big change for us. And so I'm running for the 3-year term. We have a couple of different staggered terms up this year, in this first year. And so I arrived in Plymouth a little over a decade ago, and I arrived here to teach at Plymouth State. And I taught there for about 10 years, and at this point I've moved on to UNH Cooperative Extension, where I'm currently working. Why I came here, obviously was for the job at Plymouth State, but I chose with my family to live right here in the village. And I walked here tonight to this event, and we really chose to live someplace in a kind of tight-knit community with lots of people around us, which I know it's not everyone's choice, but it was a really positive choice for us, where I could walk to work, where we could walk to the schools, where we could walk downtown, go to the Main Street shops, and kind of enjoy the village, and do all that without getting in a car in the morning. And that was really something we appreciated, as well as the hope of a positive community experience. And I mean, I can certainly say, since we've gotten here, that the community is an amazing community, and it has been one of the real highlights of being here, is just being welcomed into this community. And I say that in part because I remember, and probably a couple of you have heard this story from me, when I first arrived here, looking for a house, getting this job at Plymouth State, several people gave me like a warning about moving where I moved, like near all the students, near the university, that I would regret it. And we moved here anyway, and we have not regretted it for a moment. And yes, it's been noisy a few times here and there, and it happens. And I knew that coming in. And what really makes me happy is that over time, I've heard that warning given to people less and less and less. And if we think about a place to live, as the kind of saying sometimes go, where we can live, work, and play, when I came here, I was told to work here and play here, but live somewhere else. And I chose to live here. And this trend where I'm hearing that less and less, part of, I think, my role on the board is to hear that less and less, and to make this as livable a community as possible for as many people as possible, where it's a place to live, work, and play, including that live part. And I think that's really important. And to that end, I've been involved since we've kind of rebooted it in the Economic Development Committee, as Mary Ann was mentioning, and the Planning Board, and the Housing Committee. I was chairing the Housing Committee as well. That has really received some really great accolades. And I see the red flag coming up. And really, to kind of sum it up, I guess, economic development and housing go hand in hand. You can't really have one without the other. And these are both priorities that hopefully we can talk a little bit more about later.
Thank you, John. Neil, you're also running for a 3-year
No,
tenure. 2-year. Okay.
I think there are two
2.
here.
You and Molly are doing 2. Right, okay. Could you introduce yourself?
Well, I think people know that I've been around a long time. My 6th great grandmother came to Plymouth in 1764. She owned what was the Arlen farm, and it went from there. And anyways, I grew up in Plymouth, and my dad was a local doctor. He had been an Army doctor in World War II, and he worked with the National Guard for 30 years. And he was, at dinner table talk, I was always listening to, things he was talking about, and I got really interested in the town and what was going on. And in college, I studied some political science, and when I was 26, I ran for legislature and I got elected, and I served 3 terms in the State House. I was on the Municipal and County Government Committee, which had issues that related to problems in Plymouth. I could see that Plymouth was kind of stuck. It just wasn't moving forward. And so I started pushing the selectmen, and they appointed me to the planning board in 76, 77. And also they appointed me to be industrial agent for the town. And I worked with the Department of Resources and Economic Development and Trapper Brown and Louis Boschman, and I was instrumental in getting the first McDonald's into Plymouth. And that was a big deal.
I remember that McDonald's.
Yeah. And
Before it was a roller skating rink.
yeah, they had quite a few things there. But the McDonald's took off, and I served on, I served on so many different committees. I was on the planning board. I served on the airport commission. I was elected cemetery trustee. I was on the planning board. I served on the conservation commission, the budget committee, zoning board, and energy commission, and PERLAC. And all the time I was on select board for 10 years. They kept putting me on the planning board, so I kind of have a home there. And I've watched this town evolve over time, and it's getting better and better all the time. But taxes are high, they're painfully high, and it's not good for development. It doesn't attract people making commercial investments. And we really need commercial investments in our town. And in the last few years, we've been working on putting together the Tenny Mountain Overlay District plan, which can be a tremendous help to our tax base. And we also approved other plans like the Riverside Landing development and the new Hilton Hotel. That they've got the equipment out there today.
Saw that.
They're going to go, and we were a little disappointed that they didn't go sooner. But we had other projects that we approved that there was uncertainty in the markets, and they didn't go. So we're still at it, and we've been working on trying to alleviate the affordable housing crisis. There are a lot of people that are, just financially strapped, and we need more affordable housing in our community. And I know that we're going to have more kids in school, but that's great. I believe in education. I'm a real strong believer in education. Red.
Thank you.
I ran over the red.
That's okay, that's
I'm a
okay.
red light runner.
Bill Bolton, you're running for 1 year.
1 year. term,
Just
yeah.
1 year.
Just 1 year.
Okay.
That's what he
Introduce
thinks.
yourself, please. Not that you need any introduction.
So, yeah, as far as I think I basically don't want to walk on Neil's time. You already ate up a minute of mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So anyway, I'm a 4-term select board member. Also been working on the planning board for some years as a select board rep. My wife and I have had 4 kids in the town of Plymouth, and we've basically gone through the Plymouth school system. Yep, and so I left the select board, and I am now a state rep, and I represent the towns of Plymouth, Holderness, and Ashland. And getting back to at least the pilot and the need to, I was told in no uncertain terms that when I'm in the legislature, I shall pass a bill to basically go after the support of nonprofits paying either a pilot or some portion of the municipal tax. And there are 4 bills that I have done since my election. The one failed very quickly. The second one was a pilot bill, and it was heard before municipal and county. And we had a lot of support from the New Hampshire Municipal Association, which is a necessity if you want to get something done that affects the towns. And he was so intrigued with the bill that I had put in, even though that bill died a quick death. We submitted the third bill, which is now in Ways and Means Committee. And I am on the Ways and Means Committee. And the Ways and Means Committee was rather receptive. So what we're going to be doing with that bill, it came to a vote and it went to interim study. So over the summer, we'll be like tweaking that bill to make it more acceptable for our committee. It's still like a long road. We might even get it out of committee over the summer. And then it has to go to the Senate, and the Senate is rather reluctant about like passing tax bills. And then the governor would have to approve it. So the rep from the New Hampshire Municipal Association is very intrigued with this bill and wants to go forward with something and get it passed. So I'm thinking that would bring some relief to our town. And essentially, we're looking at 20% of the municipal rate of the valuation of all nonprofits within the state. And they would have an option of basically franking that. You know, if the town felt that they didn't need the money, they would just allow the nonprofit to go forward as it was. But I think the town of Plymouth might generally accept the 20% of the municipal rate of the property tax. So, man, that's, so in any event, we'll be working on that over the summer. And I think there's a pretty good chance that we'll probably get something. And the horrific formula, which we didn't mention though, is the fact that Plymouth has 53% of its taxable property in the hands of nonprofits, whereas the 47% of all of us are supporting all of the services for the whole town. So, and in any event, I'm also on the, the Economic Development Committee, and I am very much in support of the Tenny Mountain Overlay District. And I feel that this is a really good chance to basically get some money out of someone that's very adept at developing properties. In fact, tomorrow, generally lobbyists have luncheons that they throw. So tomorrow is a bioscience, lobby, and they represent Steve Kelly at the Mountain. So Steve will be at this meeting tomorrow, and we'll be like meeting with them. And I'm just thinking that we're definitely in a good place to probably go forward with something that would really benefit this town. But in any event, I'm looking forward to my 1 year.
Well, we know which one of us does not blow red lights.
Gotta get it out.
Molly.
Okay, so my name is Molly McCann. I joined the planning board as an alternate in June of 2024, which I was motivated to join the board because I had participated in the housing studies that the planning board had conducted thanks to the HOP grant from the state that funded a study to do housing opportunities, understand housing opportunities in this town. I had moved back to Plymouth in 2022 after finishing my master's degree, and my master's degree is in landscape architecture, and I have an interest in planning from my graduate studies, and so I participated in these housing studies, and I was approached by members of the board suggesting that maybe I should consider joining the board. So I did as an alternate. I was appointed by the select board as a full voting member last March 2025, so I'll be coming up, if I get elected, into my 2-year anniversary this coming June. In that 1.5, almost 2 years, I have really devoted myself to the study of planning and to the study of the type of planning that this town really needs with the help of our amazing staff members that the town has. And I guess a little bit more about things that I see as challenges, opportunities, and pieces of inspiration. I mean, my education first of all, growing up here in Plymouth, attending PRHS elementary school, attending UNH, I have a really strong connection to this place and my knowledge of this place, and I feel that my experience being trained in design gives me the skills to visualize potential futures, and gives me the skills to visualize how policy may result in various futures. And I have a really long vision for this town. In many ways, I think this town is wonderful, and I think it can continue to be even more wonderful moving forward. And I want to continue to devote myself to the study of planning as a member of the planning board. I'm also a member of the Economic Development Committee. I'm the vice chair with Marianne being the chair. And I feel like we're doing really good work that is only just getting started. And I'd like to continue to work on all our projects there. I think some of the challenges that I see as a member of the planning board, and I feel personally, is that I feel at once very connected to this town and also very disconnected. I'm always really amazed, and I say this in our meetings all the time, at how I feel like I think I know everybody, but I really don't. And one opportunity that I hope the planning board and economic development committee can grasp in the next few years is continuing to encourage people in this town to really be participants in the creation of this town's future in very tangible ways. I think it's very easy to be very disempowered by national politics, and I think it's very easy to be empowered by local politics. And so I am a strong advocate for continuing improving our communication as governors of this town to the rest of everyone who lives here. That's
Thank
my
you,
3
Molly.
minutes there.
Thank you for all the YouTube videos you created.
Oh, yeah.
To share the
Look for
project.
more.
It was terrific. But I think that's a great way to bridge the gap and engage the community. So
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, all of you, for your introductory remarks. They're terrific. Great way to understand what drives you in your work and how you're contributing to the future of our town. My first question is about the Tenny Mountain Overlay District. So, this is a big deal. As a planning board member, how do you view the balance between the economic development, the infrastructure capacity, environmental stewardship, and community character in this proposal? Go. Go.
Okay, I'll start. I'm gonna start.
It's an easy one.
Yeah, so really, after studying the language of the overlay district legislation, I was really, really encouraged as someone who is a strong environmentalist and strong advocate of conservation, that there's language in the legislation that requires development to be respectful of the existing natural world. And the whole deal is that a developer will give the planning board a master plan so we can see everything that they're planning to do with a certain tract of land, which is an amazing opportunity. That's not usually what goes on. Usually you get one tiny piece of an overall plan. And so if there are objections, that's an opportunity for the public to have, we're gonna have a public hearing on these things. So there's actually, the legislation I feel does a really good job of allowing for more public input on development that may be concerning for any of the reasons like character concerns or natural world concerns. And I think that's baked into the legislation.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment on that?
Just a brief one.
Thank you.
So I got a heads up about the master plan, or at least what the developer intends for it. And he seems very concerned about, I brought up the fact that we have some conserved property up there. And I know I was on the Conservation Commission, and we're like discussing what we could do with it as far as access, because it's kind of like landlocked. And basically, in my conversation with Steve, it was like, oh yeah, we can definitely accommodate like, access to that lot and open it up. And I'm thinking, okay, nice attitude. I mean, this is what someone would say that is, expecting a development approval. But I think his mindset is correct, and also he's very successful as far as his developments in Massachusetts.
Are you concerned about increased density and pressures on our infrastructure, increased water demands, sewage demands?
Yeah, well, Sir Michael also anticipated that there was much water that was never really taken advantage of that he could have. I'm not certain if the water is really there, but I think that's to be discovered. I know there's a couple tanks up there, maybe one large one that may be useful, even still.
Well, that's our water supply for the condo.
So then it is useful. But, I think there would be some impact on water. Obviously, there's going to be an impact on infrastructure. I also think that we are having like a disparate large development that's kind of far away from the center of the town. So it would require, a fire department access. So I think it would be a plus, because we have a lot of people over in that area that would benefit from that as well.
If I can jump in there. First, I got immediately caught in the weeds about the infrastructural issues. I mean, one of the things we can do if they're proposing something that will put a strain on our infrastructure in a way that the current infrastructure can't handle it is, after department review, engineering review, whatever it may be, to actually ask for some kind of impact fee or something where they can help build out some of that infrastructure to make it have the capacity to handle whatever they're proposing. And we can cross that bridge when we get there. We don't really know what that's going to look like yet. But in terms of the broader picture, one of the things we've seen, and probably many of you I'm sure most of you in the room know this, like we've seen many attempts to redevelop Tenny that have not worked, and that's been going on for a while now. And to make it work, it's going to require a certain scale of development there that was hard to accomplish in our current zoning. And so one of the things the overlay district allows is, on the one hand, a greater flexibility for the developer to propose some things that might be bigger than we typically see in Plymouth. But also by doing it through this kind of master plan sort of process, to also give the planning board the power to really help frame that and push back where necessary, and have a kind of nuanced perspective kind of guiding that process forward, so we can say, yeah, this does work for us. And it's already written in there a lot of guidance as to what we are looking for. So if they do propose something large, it kind of does fit our vision of what's acceptable for that large scale development, while still allowing them to actually accomplish that and hopefully succeed where others have failed. And I do think this development firm, who's the primary stakeholder there right now, can actually make this happen. But yeah, to make it happen, there's going to need to be some large development probably to actually float the capital to actually do real recreational development there. And I think in the end that can really be a major boon for the town. In many ways, bringing people here for all sorts of reasons to go to the mountain, but also for all the things that might come with that as well.
The geological structure of Tenny Mountain has extensive ledge outcrops and lateral fractures in the ledge, and at the base of the mountain is a very high water table. It's practically an aquifer, so I don't think there would be any problem with water. And I'm familiar with the engineering company that he's hired, and they're from Concord, and they're highly regarded. And he's explained that he really wants to get right down to the complete infrastructure design and replacement of all the drainage and road systems up there, which it needs.
Which it sorely needs.
Just one more question about sustainability on that project, because it really dovetails nicely into one of the priorities that the select board has in terms of Plymouth as a sustainability destination and tourism. So how are you ensuring that the development is sustainable in terms of our environmental practices and its impact is being monitored? Do you want to take that, Molly? Or
Bumping it over to me, or I see you smiling at me?
I think I want to bump it over to you first,
Um,
and then fill in any gaps.
I think there are some of the things that Molly already mentioned that are written into the actual language of this proposal, but really anything that comes before us has to go through various forms of review that are not just by the board, but by engineers or DES or whoever might have to be involved in this process, depending on what exactly is proposed. And so anything there will still need to go through that process. So even if it's much bigger, it'll still need to meet all of our standard and the state standard environmental protocols. And certainly the way the Tenny Mountain Overlay District language is written for the zoning, hopefully it'll pass, ensures that we are mindful of these things and hopefully even kind of go above and beyond, not just like meeting the minimum requirements for environmental sustainability and runoff and so on and so forth, but also really thinking about view sheds and buffer zones and all the other things that are built into that language that will mitigate environmental impact, but also mitigate, quality of life issues. If you're worried about like a larger building there, would it be a hotel or whatever it might be, other facility, how is that shielded from the road, from other properties? And so there's a lot of thought that has gone into all of this in terms of, yes, environmental mitigation and kind of broader kind of quality of life sort of environmental issues as well.
Yeah, and I just want to repeat what I said before about, there is the language of the overlay district makes clear that one of the priorities of the town, and therefore what the planning board is going to be looking for in any sort of application that's brought before us, is a prioritization of conservation and sustainability and natural spaces. If we get an application that very clearly does not do that, and by the way, we also get public input that says there's a lot of problems that we're seeing here, then we as a board are empowered to say, no, you can't do it this way, and come back a different way to do it. So there's a lot of, yes, we're giving the developer more flexibility, but what we are getting in exchange is more say in what happens. And that's one of the reasons I really appreciate the overlay district in general, because I think this town is made up of people that really want to have a say in what ends up happening here, which I completely understand.
And
why I'm here.
If I can take like 20 seconds of your time for a second,
Please.
since I hear you're so green.
This is like time sharing.
It is. We're establishing a timeshare here. So the language of a zoning amendment in general is complicated. This one is long and extensive and
True.
possibly for many of you hard to get through. If you really want to know more about this and you're trying to like read that language and understand it and can't, ask our town planner, Joseph Perez, or if you want to ask me, feel free to ask me. I'm not volunteering or anybody else, but maybe anybody else as well, if they want to volunteer.
What is the best way for people to ask you questions if they're not here tonight?
You can email me,
Okay.
or you can ask Joseph for my email. He can forward that along as well. And there are those of us here who can help walk you through this or answer questions, especially our town planner, because it is complicated, but it's very carefully written.
Do we have some questions about Tenny Mountain Development? Not one?
I have a comment. If you don't have any questions. If you don't have any questions.
Dan, we can't take any questions online, can we, from our viewers? Next year we will.
So I'm looking at the financial viability of what he's proposing.
Yeah.
And we've got Cannon Mountain, which is state-owned, and it's kind of an old-style ski area. And then we got Loon and Waterville, which are burgeoning. And frankly, I think they're at capacity. And they've gotten so expensive, and they're so crowded that people want another ski area. And Tenny is it's an excellent mountain. it holds snow very well. And he's made huge investments already in the lifts and in the snowmaking, and he's ready to make more investments. And he's got a really good operation going now. And he's in a position where he's going to have a niche. And the overflow from, when people get tired of waiting 45 minutes to get on a lift at Loon or Waterville, and they can go over to Tenny, and they're on that lift in no time, right?
On the lift for a while.
Well, yeah,
As long as elected and voted down.
yeah, I'm telling you, it's not crowded like Waterville and Loon, so people really like that. So, I think that the mountain is ideal. It has excellent terrain, it holds snow very well, and he's got the money to make it happen.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, all of you, for your thoughts and more information on the Tenny Mountain development. Could you talk to us about the housing master plan? And what status it's in right now, what you are taking into account as you develop it, and what your vision is for housing in Plymouth over the next 10 years. Who's living here?
I'll go first.
Softballs.
So very importantly, on March 2nd at 6:30 p.m. in Bobcat Cafe, there is our first large community meeting for when we are seeking input from members of this town to tell us what your vision for housing in Plymouth is. We are engaged with an incredibly professional, really wonderful planning group called Barrett Planning, who are facilitating this information gathering, if you will, this community meeting for us, the planning board. And we will take what is said in that meeting into account when we go to then write the master plan chapter. So it's not just, my view, it's everyone's view, hopefully. If you want to know my personal view about our future housing, as a teacher at Plymouth State, I work with really early professionals who love being in Plymouth and they cannot afford to live here. And they are leaving. They're going back home, they're living with their parents, just like me, and they're living where they can afford to live. And that's I think, a real big loss for us. I think it's also a loss for us to not have as many young families in our town. I think we lose a sense of vibrancy that I think I benefited from as a child growing up in this town. My memories of being a child are wonderful in this town. I felt safe. I felt like there were things happening, that I was part of something that was bigger than me. And I think that if we don't make a housing environment in which young families and young adults and young professionals can compete with the increasingly expensive market forces, then we're going to lose out as a town. So I guess that's my kind of general vision for figuring out the ways to set the legal conditions that allow for people to afford to live here.
Thank you, Molly.
I was around for the first, not the first one, but the last, town plan. And it was a long process. So it's not going to be like decided in the next couple of weeks. So it involves multiple meetings with the town and querying, what's important to everyone. So it's going to be a long process to get the next master plan done. So I'm willing to sit around for maybe the next one, if they can do it in a year.
You're gonna have to run again.
We'll see.
John Veal?
Yeah, something I see is that the university has lost a lot of students. The student population has dropped considerably, and the university's in a state of transformation, actually, and there are going to be some big changes, but I expect it's going to keep going. And there's a lot of off-campus housing that when I was a kid, a lot of those houses were apartment houses, or they were rooming houses, and they've been converted to student, off-campus student housing, and one of the major property owners told me that 80% of his tenants are not students. So I can see those properties being converted back to, apartments and lodging for people in the community that are not in association with the college necessarily. So that's what I'm seeing.
So I'll add then. I think what Molly said about really the master plan vision, that chapter on housing, our plan and the planning board is really your plan as the community. We want to hear from you. And I will say, so where that takes us, I think, is this is building on what we did in the first round of our Housing Opportunity Planning Grant that we've been working on for a few years now. And that came to a close. Now we have our second round. And Plymouth got a lot of recognition around the state and even in northern New England for the quality of the work we were doing here, engaging the broad community as much as possible, and really kind of feeding that into making zoning changes and really taking a measure of our community. And that is being built into further engagement for this housing master plan. And so it's a kind of ongoing process. And the process we've done so far is, I think, really strong and has been recognized for its strength. And in fact, we've been designated a housing champion now because of that in New Hampshire, if that program continues to exist, which will hopefully. And I mean, I think one of the most important things we do on the planning board is we listen. And it's our job to listen to people, listen to the community. And it's also one of the hardest things we do. There are people like you all who come to these meetings and come to our planning board meetings, and occasionally we see a new face, which is fantastic and makes like me smile. But there are so many people that are hard to hear from. And there are people having conversations about these issues that don't come to town hall to tell us about it. And so trying to meet people where they are, whether that be physically, emotionally, whatever that is difficult. And I know there are communities in this town that are part of the broader community that we haven't heard from. And we hear from a lot of like single family homeowners. And we don't hear from as many renters, unhoused, and various other underserved communities that for a good housing master plan that really informs the picture of where we need to provide all that kind of middle housing for that's more affordable. We need to hear from those people.
Will you be rolling out a strategy to engage those constituents
we
that
have-
don't attend the meetings?
We have started to already, and we were trying to do that a lot in the first round of the HOP program.
What does that look like? Tell us about some sort of non-unconventional way of reaching out to constituents that aren't civically engaged.
I mean, part of this has been more kind of, talking to stakeholders in the community who kind of can perform as a liaison to some of these communities. Because a lot of these communities either don't think their voice is important or don't think they're going to be listened to because they've had experiences not being listened to. And so we've tried to reach out to them and say, like, we're having a meeting, or can we come and talk to you? And to some extent, it's worked, but not nearly as much as would be most beneficial. And this is not unique in Plymouth. I appreciate about Plymouth the fact that we're really trying, though. And I know some communities, don't even try very hard. And we do try. And we probably reach more for that. But there's still so much more to hear.
May I give an example from
Yes.
the recent past, the 6-word story effort, where we had a stroke of brilliance at the planning board, and we said, where does everyone go? Everyone goes to drop their trash off at the recycling center. Maybe we should put a board there to get respondents about this question. What does home mean to you? Which is a very qualitative kind of question, but we got at least 300 respondents total, but not just from the recycling center. I think the most came from the recycling center. So the board as it exists right now, we are working well together. We're putting our brains together. We're having these, it seems obvious once you're there. Like, yeah, everyone goes to the recycling center. Almost everyone goes to the recycling center. And these are the areas where we can reach people. So that kind of thinking, I think, is still going on. And we get input sometimes from brilliant students that come to the meeting that say, hey, there's this app called the Nextdoor app that actually people use to communicate. And so we are building our toolbox of how to more effectively reach people, and we're open to suggestions.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Can I have a minute more of a soapbox for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I also just wanted to say, I think we get a little bit scared of density sometimes, and like having a lot of people close to downtown. We have a vibrant downtown, and to keep it so, especially with a shrinking college population as well, I think a little bit of extra density downtown in terms of our housing can actually be really helpful. And think about this in the bigger picture. We have an aging population living with fewer people in a house. We have families that, look at the demographics, they're smaller than they used to be. People having fewer kids than they used to be. All these houses that we may have the same number of houses, but they all have fewer people in them. And to actually kind of maintain the kind of vibrancy of a lively downtown, you actually need the people there. And some of those people come from outside, but all of our houses actually have fewer people in them than they probably did 50 years ago. And building some of that density back in, of having people there to actually create that vibrant, exciting downtown that we have, but it could be even more so. And we need to think about the sustainability of that going forward, I think is really important.
Terrific insight. Does anyone have questions for our planning board? Go ahead, Kelsey, please come to the mic.
Question.
Yes,
So people on PVTV can hear you.
that's right.
Yeah.
We have viewers at home.
My question to you guys is,
Hold on one second. Try now. There we go.
It's on, there you go.
Yes.
okay, my question is, we have Tenny Mountain overlay, that's gonna be a lot of transient housing and so forth, there's been a lot of people come and go. What's the planning board's plan to control investor-owned housing, where we do more Airbnbs, where we're just gonna have empty houses most of the week and just only, it's not permanent housing for the town of Plymouth? And what's your plan for that? And I speak to you because I'm a member of the ZBA.
Yeah.
So it's gonna come to us, and it would be nice to have very clear criteria of how you're gonna keep that under some kind of control. Because if this really works in Tenny Mountain, and it really is a great place to come, you can become bigger.
Okay, so, I guess baseline understanding is that what Fred is referring to, I think, is short-term rental, right?
Yeah.
Currently, short-term rentals are not something that's permitted in the town under the current zoning. It's just not a use in the use table to be permitted. So there's that, just kind of basic fact. We have had many conversations on the board about how we are going to talk about this type of use. I also want to say, general fact, we don't actually know right now what exactly the proposal for this master plan that the developers of Tenny are potentially going to give us. So I don't want to make any assumptions right now about what's going to be proposed there. But we don't have any kind of zoning change for this year about allowing short-term rentals. We do have the overlay district, so any master plan that's given to us can only have the uses that we permit, and short-term rental is not a use we permit in the overlay district either. So if we get a master plan that says, okay, all of these are going to turn into Airbnbs, we're going to say, well, wait a minute, that's not actually allowed right now in this town. Additionally, we have had conversations about how are we going to legislate this? And it's a very difficult question. It's very sticky. It comes into, you basically have two sides to the story. People who are using an extra bedroom in their home to make a little bit of side income, that helps them generate income to pay their taxes, and it makes them be able to afford to live here more easily. That's a legitimate story. We also have the side of the story that says all of the housing that could be long-term residents is now being sold out to people who don't actually live here. And that's also a legitimate concern. So I think there's a middle way that I don't have currently the exact answers to about how to properly legislate that, but it's a conversation I'm eager to have, and there's going to take some study to figure out what's going to best fit Plymouth, and I think that's something that the planning board is ready to take on in this coming year.
I'll add that we have had these conversations, and we were getting a little bit of pressure to kind of like make a decision and go forward with it this year, and the planning board made a choice that we really wanted to listen to everyone first, and not just make a decision as a board unilaterally, but really listen to what everybody wants in this town as part, in fact, as part of our housing master plan process. And so rather than doing what we want to do, we want to do what you all want envisioned in town doing going forward. And yeah, there's short-term rentals that benefit homeowners and don't leave vacant houses unoccupied by permanent residents, and then there's short-term rentals that leave, houses being occupied by transient people and not permanent residents, as Molly was mentioning. I'd love to see, in addition to some kind of short-term rental legislation that makes some of that legal, some of it remain as it is currently, but still practiced like not legal, in a reasonable way that we all agree with as a town. I'd also really like to answer some of this need, as I think we're going to do at Tenny Mountain, as we're starting to do already with 2 hotels on Tenny Mountain Highway, as well as other properties throughout the town, of dealing with this through proper commercial establishments and having enough of them that we can meet that demand as it grows, and not relying on our limited housing stock to meet that demand. And frankly, looking at the short-term rental market right now, a lot of that so-called, as it was called, gig economy stuff for a while, it all started out really cheap just to get buy-in and to shut everyone else out. And now that they've established that almost monopoly, the prices are all going up. And you're not getting that much of a better deal at a lot of these places anymore. And people are starting to go back to standard services like hotels. Although the problem is we've built a capacity for these rooms, and the hotels aren't meeting that. And so people are still using the very expensive short-term rentals. But there is a pushback happening. And I would love to see that pushback be met with more purpose-oriented lodging.
I think the
Closing
most,
thoughts before we move to
Okay.
library trustees.
okay, I think the most concerning aspect of short-term rentals is absentee landlords. And we've discussed the possibility of having increased life safety code standards to ensure safety and number of people in the unit. That's been a big problem.
Thank you. Any other questions for our planning board? All right, thank you. We will move on to our library trustees. Thank you for your patience. We saved the best for last. Joyce, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Joyce Weston. I moved to Plymouth 21 years ago as a deliberate decision because I like the town. And my wife and I looked at a number of different places and decided this is the town we wanted to be in. I've been involved in a number of things in town. You probably know me from my political work and also from the beautification committee. And but I also, and I was your rep, I must say, for 4 years, same as Bill Bolton. So I had a sort of an understanding of municipal government and also the state government. The library, I think, is just a really valuable resource. It is such an important way for the community to have access to information. And I think we're all aware right now that our public schools are under assault, locally and nationally. And the libraries are next. They're coming next. Just last week, we had a bill that would have allowed towns in the state of New Hampshire to take over the libraries, to eliminate the Board of Trustees altogether. and take the library under the auspices of the town. Well, you know that that means for a lot of small towns that the libraries would just be buttoned up. They would go away. We had a major campaign to have online opposition to the libraries, and a lot of people went down to testify. There were 1,300 online testimonies in opposition, and the bill was soundly defeated. It was legislated inexpedient to legislate. So we won that battle, but there are a lot more coming. So that is one of the reasons that I really want to be part of this Board of Trustees, because I think I bring that kind of point of view into the board. I also think we have a fabulous library here in town. Our director, Becky White, is very, very good. Her staff is welcoming. You can take out, books or movies or jigsaw puzzles. From the library things, you can get a telescope or a sewing machine. It's an amazing place. Plus, they have all of these wonderful meeting places like where we are right now, or the meeting rooms in there. It's well cared for, and I think it's a wonderful resource that we certainly don't want to lose. The Board of Trustees is working very well together, and that hasn't always been the case. I've heard rumors of some trustee boards that just didn't mesh as well. The man sitting right next to me is our wonderful treasurer, and so I'm certainly hoping that he gets voted in again as well. We have a lot of competition, Jim. But I think it's a very good resource, and I definitely want to go for another 3 years. Oh, I want to mention one other thing that we're doing. We're looking into we have a solar array on top of the library, which doesn't work. And we looked into repair and found it was kind of costly. But we are now looking into grants through the Conservation Commission and PRI to do a solar array over the parking lot, which would be fabulous, because that also means that you wouldn't be stepping into the snow. And it could really be fabulous. Could be a little bit of time, because it's certainly, there probably will be some expenses for the trustees, and we know that we have to be very careful about our budget. So anyway, that's that.
Thank you, Joyce. Jim?
Okay, I'm James Gorn. I've been in town almost 20 years, and I love this town. And I became part of the library trustee because I wanted the library to really be in good standing. This is a gem of a library that we have here, and it's really the way that people become educated still after high school. Libraries aren't just books. As Joyce had mentioned, we have the Library of Things. We have meeting rooms, we have videos, other ways of getting education through the library. I mean, it was only, 3 weeks ago that there was over 100 people, or roughly 100 people in this room for a speaker. That kind of stuff you don't get online, and that's why I think the library is so important. So about 1.5 years ago, I became the treasurer of the library. Financially, we're doing very well. We're on good standing. But I really want to make sure that continues to be on good standing here. So I'm hoping to run again for another 3-year term.
Well, you are unopposed.
Okay.
So, you are your shoo-in.
Yeah.
And I vouch for him.
Perfect. In your view, how do library trustees safeguard the freedom of expression and the access to information?
Well, we make sure that the library functions. Although I would say also our directors, we work directly with our director. That's kind of a funny statement. But she comes, and we have a monthly meeting. She comes to us and brings us any kinds of issues, both public and non-public, that the library might be experiencing. And then we vote on actions that need to be taken in relation to that. I would say Becky and her staff are doing a terrific job. And we have not encountered too many issues since her committee, since her directorship started. We had some issues prior to that, but we're in good shape now, so.
We do have protocols. If there is any books or any material that's objected by someone, then that is brought before the committee. We make sure the person having the objection actually reads the material first, so they know what's going on. And then we would have a discussion based on that. 3 years, not one book has been brought before us. So we are just not seeing this censorship that we thought we would see. It's just not happening. So, and I think that's because Becky has brought in good books, and the public basically has been respectful.
We've just reviewed all the policies of the library, and occasionally there are some issues with lack of parental supervision, but, and there is a policy about that. So if there's need for a parent to remove a child or something like that, I think they have the staff to take care of those problems.
Could you talk a little bit more about the role that the library now plays in the community, far beyond just lending books and lending things, but thought leadership, civic engagement, speakers?
We're here right now.
Yeah, I do think bringing in speakers, even if it's a controversial speaker, is a very healthy way for the society to really engage with people and talk to one-on-one also. And so I do see that we're bringing in more and more speakers, and we also are bringing in more and more other material, a lot of online things that you can get through the library. We're looking at different programs for audiobooks, Hulu programs, other programs, where you really can learn much more of what's out there, far more than you can get just off the internet.
There's also some teaching programs for learning software, computer software. I know the senior center does that as well, but it's, you know, they are always exploring different ways to engage all different age groups in the library. The one they have the most trouble with is the teenagers. So can't get them in here. But that program with Ty Gagné was 97 people.
That's terrific.
Yeah, a little over the fire code.
Do you have questions for our wonderful library trustees?
May I ask a question?
Well, yes, one second.
Yeah.
Do you, as library trustees, do you feel supported by the town?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yes.
Terrific, because I couldn't think of an institution that we need more.
Well, Scott,
Right now, as we're defending democracy.
I'm losing my voice,
And
so
the
it's,
assault on
excuse me.
education.
Yeah, I know, and libraries really are next, because, well, I won't go into that. But Scott Whedon is very good about coming to our meetings whenever he's available.
Yeah.
He's a busy guy, but he has wonderful input, and so we feel there's a direct connection there. I know that Becky works very well with Scott as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was wondering, with what kind of planning and land use hat on, do you see any opportunities or challenges to navigate with your parking lot changing hands?
No, I think that's a good thing.
It's a good thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
go,
we're happy about it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're able to do the solar array.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's a positive partnership
Oh,
then.
yeah.
Because there's
It's
still
more
an issue
than,
with the
it's more than
ownership
just a
of the-
positive partnership.
What's that?
It's more than just a
Okay.
partnership, because we're actually working with the new owner to take possession of the portion of the parking lot that formerly was owned by the other building. So
Okay.
we're actually redrawing that line.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Zach, could you just clarify that so we understand? So the parking lot
Yeah,
is
so-
not owned by the library?
So very bizarrely, a portion of the library parking lot,
Yeah.
not the entirety of it, but a portion of the library parking lot is owned by the Northway Bank building. So historically, negotiating plowing contracts is, two different parties there, and bank employees park in a portion of the parking lot. It's a very complicated relationship. So as that has changed hands, we're working to redraw that line and enter into a long-term agreement with the new owners so that they can still park some employee vehicles, and you two may know more, but still park some employee vehicles in the library lot so that they don't lose the parking, but that the ownership issue is now clarified under new ownership.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will the planning board see a boundary line adjustment?
That is a much better question for Scott Wheaton.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for attending. Audience, do you have any questions for our wonderful candidates, soon to be, again, officials, select men and women, board, men and women, planning board, our library trustees?
I just all want to thank you for being here tonight and for the commitment to making this town what it is. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for organizing.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Penn Baker TV, and thank you everyone for coming out. It doesn't work without all of us.
Yep.
That's how it works best. Thank you very much for your service.
Thanks, Mary Beth.